Let's get right with talking about the Texans. And I've wondered, you played 12 years, does the bye week take away momentum, or is it actually good?
I believe as a player it's good. It's something that you need, especially after week 10. Your body's been beat up. I understand the Texans have been playing very good ball, and you want to get that momentum. You want to get back on the field as soon as possible, but those guys need a break. It's not just Andre Johnson. It's not just Matt Leinart subbing for Matt Schaub. You have guys like Eric Winston, who had an ailing back, even though he was playing through it. James Casey didn't miss the week before the bye, but understand he had that pec injury and he still wasn't quite himself. So this extra week is going to help him. Derek Ward is coming back from that ankle injury. So any time off is going to help these guys. The list goes on and on. So it's not just about the week off or the big names or Andre Johnson coming back. You have a lot of guys that have been contributing, that have been playing, that needed that time to rest. When you have two rookies starting on your defense, Brooks Reed, J.J. Watt, you're afraid that they're going to hit the rookie wall. So they really need this time off after 10 weeks of ball just to get their mind relaxed, their body relaxed, and get back into it. Now they could go into this last 6-game stretch energetic and ready to go.
Another guy to keep an eye on is fullback Lawrence Vickers. He pulled a hamstring muscle in the last victory at Tampa Bay. I talked to him on Monday, and he said he's not sure if he'll play, but he'll do everything that he can. Now, okay, did you hit a rookie wall? I've always heard that. Is that a cliche or is that true?
You know what? I didn't start as a rookie. I was a role player. I was special team, so I didn't play as much as J.J. Watt and Brooks Reed my rookie year, so I didn't hit that rookie wall. But it's not just about the games. It's the preparation. It's the weeks. The hardest part about the NFL is the week leading up to your game. So at a time, you're like, wow, this season's really lasting longer than I expect. But I think people make too much of the rookie wall.
Back in the old days when colleges played 10 games in one bowl, now they're playing like 13, so it's not much difference. Now, Texans are tied for the best record in the AFC, along with Pittsburgh, Baltimore, and New England, and they're the favorite in the AFC South. And a lot of people around the country, more so than here, think because their schedule, despite Matt Leinart playing, they got a shot at getting a first-round bye, maybe home field advantage. That means people are targeting them now. They've never been in that situation. How do you handle that as a player?
You do what they preached and they did early in the season. You take it one game at a time. The later that you get into the season, with them being number one in the AFC South, this being a pretty bad division, I'm sure we'll all agree on that. They have that bullseye on their back, and bad teams are now going to just want to play spoiler and knock them off. Jacksonville, they don't have a chance to go into the playoffs this year. I don't know if mathematically they're in it or not, but we all know they're not going to the playoffs. But they would love nothing more than to beat the Houston Texans when they play out of this bye week. Tennessee, Indianapolis, they could all say the same thing. So they definitely need to take it one game at a time and realize that now they're the new Indianapolis Colts of the AFC South. They're the team that everybody's trying to knock off.
That is the worst cliche in the history of sports. I hear players talking about ahead. It doesn't mean they're focusing, but they're looking at the schedule just like we do. How do you focus then on just one game and not look ahead?
Well, I think guys look ahead, but I don't think people or players are going to disrespect the team that they're playing, and not only that, the players that they're playing. Jacksonville's a bad team, but guess what? There's great players there, and if you're looking ahead to see what's going on the next week, you're going to get exposed, you're going to get embarrassed, because I don't care how bad a team is in the NFL, you're still playing one-on-one battles against an elite athlete, so you better respect him, you better prepare for him, and I think most players do that.
When I went to practice Monday, I saw two things I didn't expect. Matt Schaub, he had a boot on his left foot before he went to Carolina to get that specialist to check him. The other one was Danielle Manning practicing. He wasn't supposed to be back for another 2 weeks. What do you think about him coming back so quick?
I thought that was huge. I hope that they really take their time with Danielle Manning. They can, because Troy Nolan's been playing some great ball, but I believe the addition of Danielle Manning and Jonathan Joseph has been huge for this defense. But at the same time, as much as I want to see him on the field, I want them to be smart and not put him out there too fast so he re-injures a leg or he injures another part of his body while compensating because he's not to 90 or 100%. But I did not expect him back this quick. And I'm sure a lot of the players were excited about that, and they raised their level of play at practice just by his presence. But again, they need to be smart with him.
They've been there with everybody else, so I'm thinking maybe they will. I think Troy Nolan's played pretty well in his place. Why not give him one more week?
Right.
Now, Andre Johnson's back. It's been so long we have to be reintroduced to him. He says he has to up his game to play at their level. What do you expect from him, especially with a new quarterback, and how will his presence help the running game.
Right. Well, first of all, with that statement, he has to up his game to play at that level. That just shows the humility of an Andre Johnson. That's not true. He just needs to be Andre Johnson. He needs to be that great receiver that we argued is the #1 receiver in the NFL. I don't think he needs to do anything different. What he needs to do for himself is run a full-speed route in a game condition, catch the ball, take a hit, and be reintroduced to the NFL. Once he does that, it knocks all the cobwebs, it knocks all the butterflies out of your system. I don't care how many times you've played at a great level. When you've missed this many weeks of football, you're going to need to kind of be reintroduced and run a full-speed route to know that the hamstring's okay.
Since Matt Schaub came to Houston in 2007, guess which NFL receiver averages the most yards per game?
I'm going to guess Andre Johnson.
Now, what happens? He's playing with a new quarterback, left-handed quarterback in Matt Leinart. You know, they're not going to let Leinart throw the ball 30 or 40 times. So how does he build a rapport with Leinart like he had with Schaub?
You know, it's about Matt Leinart getting Andre Johnson and throwing the ball where Andre Johnson needs it. Though Matt Leinart is the quarterback, Andre Johnson still is the leader of that offense. And I don't think Andre Johnson needs to adjust his game to fit Matt Leinart's. I think Matt Leinart needs to adjust his throw, need to make sure his timing's on point to get to Andre Johnson. And I don't think they're going to allow him to air it out often, but you definitely have to take shots down the field. Matt Leinart, say what you want to say about him. He still has a big arm. Andre Johnson, as fast as he is, he ran track at UM. They are going to send him on some fly routes just to see if Matt Leinart can get the ball to him.
Man, he's hungry, too.
Yeah, yes, he is.
He feels terrible he's had to sit all those games out, especially since he thought he was coming back after 3, and it's taken him 3 more.
Right.
Now, after that last game against Jacksonville, they only beat them by 10. If they hadn't turned the ball over twice in their end, allowing Jacksonville 2 touchdowns, they might have shut them out. But after that game, 2 of the Jaguars, 2 defensive linemen, squealed like little piggies about the cheap shot, mean old dirty Texans. Now, they vowed revenge. You played for 12 years, Indy, in some of the toughest rivalries, Washington, Philly, and the NFC East. Is that all lip service, or people really try to retaliate?
A little bit of both. A lot of it is lip service. One thing that I never noticed when I was playing was defensive linemen crying to the media after the game saying that they were cheap. Most of the people that I played with or against, if they felt like they were getting cheap shots handed to them, they'll take care of it on the field themselves. They wouldn't cry about it to great media members like yourself. So that's a little bit different. But there are rivalries. Jacksonville, Texans, that's turning into a rivalry. And I expect, even though the records are lopsided, this to be a very hard-hitting game because I felt like it was created by the Jacksonville Jaguars in their locker room to get themselves up for the first Texan game. But I don't really think the Texans have done anything to them. But now that the Jacksonville, they've told that lie so much, they're starting to believe it, and they're going to take that on the field. And you're going to see a very intense, hard-hitting game.
Now, what does it say about Coach Jack Del Rio and running back Maurice Jones-Drew? They didn't have the Jaguars' backs that complained. They said no. They're not cheap shot guys. They play the way they always do. What does it say about those two?
You know what? You're supposed to have your teammates back, except when they're crying like little babies. You know, off air, I was complaining about something, and you gave me the violin sign, and that's what Maurice Jones-Drew and Jack Del Rio was doing. The Houston Texans play tough, hard-nosed football. MJD, the head coach, they realized that. You know, Jack Del Rio played football, had a successful career as a
tough
player.
Guy too.
Tough guy. So he's not going to cry about guys cutting or hitting you hard. They don't do cheap shots, and I'm glad that those two guys stepped up and said we don't feel like they're cheap players.